Mindy Kaling's new hit show, Never Have I Ever, has garnered the attention of many viewers excited about a show centered around a first-generation Indian-American teenager's high school experience. But many have made claims that while the show seems well-intentioned, in some areas it's missed the mark. Stick around to find out why the show is so controversial, and how is it lacking representation and perpetuating stereotypical and ableist tropes. And what's the fate of the show? We discuss it all here. You don't want to miss it. Why Never Have I Ever is so controversial. In recent years, there's been a huge push toward movies and TV shows expanding the representation of different ethnicities, religions, and sexual identities. So it comes as no surprise that when Netflix announced the arrival of Mindy Kaling's new rom-com show, Never Have I Ever, about a first-generation Indian-American teenager navigating the difficulties of school, family, and friends, many viewers were ecstatic. The show's first season debuted on Netflix, making it into its #1 viewed spot initially, and then subsequently the top 10 category for weeks running. Initially, the show was met with praise, scoring a whopping 95% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and being hailed by Forbes as the best teen comedy to date. It has also gained more critique regarding some of the more harmful stereotypes and tropes it has perpetuated. Vice writer Pallavi Pandya writes he was assaulted with every Desi stereotype possible, including a conservative mother who wants to impose arranged marriage and other Indian life aspirations upon their daughter. He's not the only one hitting out at the show, with many people finding fault with the cliche Indian-American representation on the show. It was about sharing those stories of feeling other. It doesn't seem like the show completely accomplished what it set out to do. Up next, we'll discuss why many felt that Never Have I Ever lacked Tamil representation. Stay tuned. Why did people feel that Never Have I Ever lacked Tamil representation? There's no doubt that a character like Devi Vishwakumar is a step in the right direction as far as South Asian representation goes. The show is the first of its kind, centering around a culture often overlooked in mainstream American media. But for some, they didn't feel like the show was quite inclusive enough. Tamil influencer Sharon Guru spoke out on her Instagram page that Devi's story is not applicable to everyone, and even though Maitreyi Ramakrishnan, the actor who portrays Devi in the show, took to Twitter to defend the series, stating, "Devi does not represent the entirety of the South Asian community. She is merely one story influenced by real-life experience." Some believe this representation lacked nuance and played into harmful stereotypes. Stacey Tanya writes positively on cinema at first, stating, "It feels surreal for me to hear Tamil words on an American Netflix series," but later goes on to critique the show by saying, "Some scenes are almost a caricature of the idiosyncrasies that are uniquely Indian, with appallingly insensitive aunts and eccentric priests." And although there was Tamil dialogue within the series, Gaurathi Siva hit out against this in an article for The Varsity, stating, "Devi's mother pronounces her words different from any pronunciation she has personally ever heard." If this is the case, it's even more confusing why the show's creator chose a white male actor to narrate the show. Stay tuned as we discuss this next. Why did Never Have I Ever show creators choose a white male actor to narrate the show? For a show centered around a young Indian-American teenager, many viewers were left wondering why white male actor and former tennis player John McEnroe was the one narrating the episode. This is seemingly explained by the fact that John McEnroe was Devi's father's favorite athlete, but Gaurathi Siva brings up in an article on The Varsity that it inserts whiteness into a non-white story. Even if John McEnroe is supposed to represent a connection to Devi's father, for viewers enjoying the plot of a diverse cast, it's no wonder hearing the accent of an older white male might be jarring. John McEnroe himself even expressed his initial shock at being asked to take on the role and speculated to Vanity Fair that he believed it might have been because Mindy Kaling's parents were fans of his. Kaling has yet to make a comment about her reasoning for the decision to invite him onto the show, but it appears that the skepticism from viewers hasn't changed anything for the Never Have I Ever cast, as John McEnroe returned as Devi's inner dialogue for season 2. Keep watching to find out what ableist tropes Never Have I Ever has been accused of promoting. What ableist tropes has Never Have I Ever been accused of promoting? A main plot line in the first season of the series shows Devi suddenly dealing with the loss of her father. Because of his devastating trauma, she becomes temporarily wheelchair-bound, with it being speculated that her grief triggered a bodily response that made her unable to walk, perpetuating ableist tropes. Devi breaks free from her wheelchair to get a glimpse of a boy she has a crush on, and thus has been accused of feeding into the magical cure trope of disability. Sarah Nielsen writes in an article for Miss Magazine that this trope is highly offensive and taps into the ableist idea that the greatest thing that can possibly happen to a person with a disability is to become normal. This unfortunately has been a long-running plotline for many movies and TV shows what seems to look down on people with disabilities. One particular line that viewers drew an issue with was, "With working legs comes a whole new world of possibilities." Nielsen points out that the idea that a fulfilling life is impossible if you don't have working legs is an unfathomable ignorance. It seems like viewers would have appreciated a more nuanced and sensitive look at what it means to live with a disability, instead of hooking viewers into a narrative that disabilities are inherently limiting. Next, we dive into why viewers took issue with the way LGBTQ+ issues were handled in the series. Why are viewers taking issue with the way LGBTQ+ issues were handled in Never Have I Ever? It's clear that show creator Mindy Kaling and Lang Fisher were aiming at being inclusive by including characters with different sexual identities. In an interview with Independent, Mindy Kaling says, "It would be great to have some more LGBTQ content for Indian people. It's almost never talked about." And while that may have been her intention, that hasn't stopped internet naysayers from claiming that the show didn't handle topics surrounding LGBTQ issues very well. Although one of Devi's friends, Fabi Fabiola, comes out during the series, one viewer claims her character is largely sidelined and continually overshadowed by Debbie's plotline, leading to a critique that Fabiola's character is shortchanged. In the same interview with Independent, Kaling did express interest in writing a series surrounding a queer young woman in the future, so maybe we'll see the story of a young LGBTQ+ woman from Kaling eventually. But this is not the only feedback she received regarding LGBTQ+ issues in the show. Premica Leo, an actor that is part of the QTBIPOC community, stated she thought Debbie trying to date gay character Jonah Sharp is manipulative, while acknowledging queer people often end up in at-risk relationships because they have not come to terms with the many intersections of their identity. It seems like this trope could be damaging for young viewers struggling with their sexuality. So there you have it. We will next be addressing if Never Have I Ever is all bad, and will there be more to come? Stay tuned. Is Never Have I Ever all bad, and will there be more to come? Although there seems to be many viewers that took issue with the way Tamil culture, people with disabilities, and LGBTQ+ topics were handled in the show, Never Have I Ever isn't all bad. At the end of the day, many viewers are proud to see mainstream media embracing South Asian culture, even if they did so heavy-handedly. Rotten Tomatoes critic Tanala Lamb wrote, "With Never Have I Ever missteps, there are also wins and fresh takes. This seems to sum up the general sentiments regarding the series, considering that for all the critical reviews, there is still an overwhelming amount of praise for the show. And with season 2 released the past summer, it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Netflix announced shortly after the debut of the second season that the show has been renewed for season 3. So it's confirmed this isn't the last we'll see of Debbie on screen. But we'll have to wait and see if the writers and creators of Never Have I Ever are able to implement the critiques from the first 2 seasons and come back with more intentional writing and a focus on bringing about less cliche stereotypes in season 3. And there you have it, all the insight about Mindy Kaling's show Never Have I Ever. Let us know what you thought about the show and the controversial topics surrounding it. And as always, don't forget to tune in next time for more hot pop culture topics. Thanks for watching.